His once proud organ now resembled an overstuffed sausage, constricted tightly by the cursed bang. One cool evening, Ekene and his friends gathered at a beer parlor to have a drink when Obina, a dark-skinned young man, shared an adventurous plan that, according to him, would make them rich. My guys, I have heard so many good things about the Okene forest. It is said to hold ancient riches, gold as much as we can carry, and artifacts never before held by human eyes. I want us to embark on this journey together so that when we return, we will be the talk of this town and we will finally afford anything we desire, he said, grinning. Wait, where did you hear that from? Omo, me I'm not interested though. I don't want to die before my time, Omenka objected, shaking his head. You behave like a woman. We will just go there, see the riches and take as much as we can carry, Obina said confidently. If it is that easy, don't you think others must have taken it all by now? Ikene asked, raising a skeptical brow. No, my friends, Obina said, lowering his voice. Although the riches in that forest are endless, the danger that follows is huge. It is said that a gang of thieves once robbed a wealthy king, stealing most of his valuables. The warriors were sent after them, but they fled into the Okene forest. But as they ran, fire descended from nowhere and burned each of them alive. Some tried to escape, but fell into what seemed like preset traps, sinking sand, swallowing some, hidden pits, claimed others, while the rest were consumed by the mysterious fire. Not a single one of them made it out. But that is not all. Their spirit never left that place. It is said that they keep watch over their stolen treasure, and anyone who ventured into the forest with the intention of stealing it will be killed, he finished, his voice barely above a whisper. Obina, you must be mad. Why would you even suggest that we go to a place like that? Ejiofor asked, frowning. Because I want us to be wealthy. Simple, Obina replied. If you guys don't want to go with me, that's fine. But if I go alone, I will not share my wealth with any of you, he added defiantly. Ekene sighed, rubbing his chin. Honestly, this is tempting, but I must say it is very dangerous. The way you have described it, we need some time to think about this, he said. Time is what we do not have. Just as we are planning, only God knows who else is planning as well, Obina countered. And with that, the four friends went their separate ways, each lost in thoughts about the adventure that could either make them rich or cost them their lives. That night, whenever they closed their eyes, their subconscious mind envisioned only the wealth they could acquire, never the risk involved. Omenka and Ejiofor, excited by the possibility of untold riches, decided to take their siblings along, that the fortune could be passed down through generations. Ekene, too, finally agreed to join them. However, they had one major concern. How could they protect themselves from the supernatural forces guarding the treasure? To address this, the friends met again. We have been thinking about this adventure, but we can't shake off the feeling that we will end up like those people before us, Ekene admitted. I have it under control, Obina reassured them. I was just waiting for you guys to make up your mind. Now, if you have decided, the next step is to visit Oradi, the greatest of the greatest. He is a native priest who lives a few villages away from us. We will leave at dawn, reach his shrine before evening, and undergo our fortification at night, he explained. Hey, this guy, eh? See how you have planned everything. You too like money, Ekene joked. We all love money, Obina replied with a smirk, and they all burst into laughter. The four friends had always done almost everything together since childhood. That night, they each prepared their supplies, and before cock crowed, they gathered at the bus stop to catch the first bus at 5 a.m. The journey was long, with the bus stopping frequently to pick up and drop off passengers. After several hours, they finally arrived at their destination. As they alighted, they noticed the judgmental stares from the travelers. It wasn't every day that people ventured into this direction, and those who did were often up to no good. The air was thick with smoke that smelled of burning herbs, and an airy darkness lingered despite the afternoon sun. Strange animal sound echoed in the distance, making the atmosphere even more unsettling. The men tried to walk confidently, suppressing any sign of fear, but the deeper they went, the more overwhelming the sense of foreboding became. Soon they spotted an old man, unkempt and dirty, with long matted hair and thick beards. His appearance suggested he hadn't bathed in weeks. The man exchanged wary glances except for Obina, who had been there before. "Great priest of Amiri, we have come as I promised. These are my friends, and we seek fortification for our journey," Obina announced. The priest hummed, then disappeared into a small hut where his altar was. He began chanting incantations, breaking kola nuts and sprinkling white chalk on the ground as he sang and danced. After a while, he emerged and motioned for them to follow him. Inside the shrine, he ordered them to strip naked and lie face down on the ground. Then, without warning, he sacrificed 2 goats, their blood splattering on the dirt floor. The priest bathed them in the goat's blood before ordering them to step into a large pot sitting over a fire. The men hesitated, their legs trembling, but there was no turning back now. With great reluctance, they climbed into the pot, surprised to find the water merely warm despite the fire underneath. The priest covered the pot with a lid, trapping them inside for what felt like an eternity. When he finally opened it, he handed them some leaves to chew. They got dressed, paid him, and were about to leave when the priest stopped them. "You must never return home. Now, you must go straight to the forest and complete your mission before returning. Despite this charm, you must be very careful. Very careful, I repeat. And above all, do not be greedy," he warned, turning his back on them. As they walked in the direction, Obina led them. Each of them reflected on how drastically their lives had changed in the last 24 hours. The men had never imagined they would have to go to such lengths to attain wealth. Although they had their own businesses and were doing well, but their location and clients would make it nearly impossible to achieve the kind of riches they desired. As they walked deeper into the forest, they came across a caution sign warning them of the danger that lay ahead. Yet they ignored it, entrusting their fate to the gods. A shiver ran down their spine as an unnatural cold settled around them. After walking a short distance, Ekene spoke up. "Should we divide ourselves into groups, or should we all go together?" "No, I don't want to go by myself. Let's stay together," Ejiofor's cousin quickly replied, shaking his head. "So, if we go together and find something valuable, how do we share it?" Obina asked. "Because I don't want to share my own." Obina's words made Ekene frown. "Calm down, Obina. Whatever is here, we do not own. We are no different from those robbers who came here before us. We must think fast and act wisely so we do not make mistake we will regret." Obina pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. "Wait, I have an idea. We will scout the area individually and return here in an hour to see what we have gathered." Though uneasy about the plan, they eventually agreed and split up, each heading in a different direction. Skeletons were scattered on the ground, their hollow sockets seemingly watching the intruders. The deeper they ventured, the darker the atmosphere became. Suddenly, distant screams echoed through the forest. Goosebumps crawled over their skin, and their heartbeats quickened. Ejiofor soon found a golden goblet, while his sibling picked up a diamond necklace. Obina discovered a precious gemstone, and Ekene's eyes landed on a little golden bangle adorned with striking red gem, encircled with small colorful diamonds. It was indeed breathtaking. When they gathered at their meeting spot, they were all breathing heavily, whether from exertion or fear. They couldn't tell. They sat down, sharing nervous smiles as they displayed their findings. Obina's eyes immediately locked onto Ekene's treasure, and an unsettling glint flickered in his eyes. "Let's switch treasures," Obina suggested. Ekene narrowed his eyes at him. "No, Obina. Keep yours and let me keep mine. You were the one who said you wouldn't share whatever you found, and now you want to exchange." "I decline," he said firmly. Obina's expression darkened. His voice grew sharp. "I was the one who suggested this trip, so I am entitled to whatever I want," he roared. "You are not entitled to anything," Omenka challenged him. "Yes, you suggested it, but we all went through the same ordeal to get here. Everyone should keep whatever they find," he finished. Obina clenched his jaw, then suddenly relaxed, forcing a smile. Okay," he muttered. "Everyone calm down. Let's eat and find a place to rest," Omenka's brother interjected, sensing the rising tension. Though the air remained thick with unspoken resentment, they complied. They brought out their food, ate in silence, and afterwards found a large iroko tree under which they rested. Ekene built a fire, and one by one, sleep claimed them. Obina's mind was restless. He couldn't stop thinking about Ekene's treasure. When he was certain everyone was in deep sleep, he crept towards Ekene's belongings, searching his bag with careful fingers. When he found nothing, he checked his pockets. Still nothing. Frustration built inside him. Where could it be, he whispered to himself. Then a twisted smile curled his lips. "Don't worry, that treasure will be mine," he muttered before going back to his spot and forcing himself to sleep. They had barely slept for a few hours when a loud, brutal roar ripped through the night. Startled, they jolted upright, eyes darting around in panic. "What was that?" Ejiofor gasped, his hands shaking. Their heads turned in all directions, searching for the source of the terrifying sound. "I just want to go home. Whatever I have now is enough for me. This place scares the crap out of me," Omenka admitted, his voice trembling. "Stop being a child," Obina snapped. "We all knew how dangerous this place was before coming here." "Why do you always have the wrong things to say?" Ejiofor fired back. "His feelings are valid. And look at you, acting like our leader. Who made you our leader?" Obina sneered. "I initiated this trip, so I automatically become the leader of you all." Omenka scoffed. "You will never change. Still the same old Obina. Greedy, selfish, arrogant and controlling. I should have known it would be like this." "So now I am selfish, huh? Fine," Obina thundered. "I do not want to be selfish anymore. Everyone should go their separate ways." "Calm down, Obina," Ekene interjected. "We all are scared, but you don't see us calling each other weak. I know you are scared too, but you refuse to admit it. That's okay, but listen, we came here in one piece and we will leave in one piece. We just need to cooperate for a few more days." A sudden air laugh rang out behind them. Without hesitation, they ran. When they finally stopped, gasping for breath, they realized they had abandoned their bags. Deciding it was too dangerous to retrieve them at night, they agreed to wait until dawn. Soon it was morning. Under the bright sunlight, they returned to collect their belongings. Ekene suggested they search individually again, but this time they would take more time to gather enough before leaving the next day. Everyone agreed and went their separate ways. Omenka stumbled upon what appeared to be the resting place of the wealthiest thief. Skeletons lay scattered around heaps of treasure. He hesitated, unsure how he would carry it all, so he sat there waiting, hoping the others would find him. By evening, the group gathered again, but Omenka was nowhere to be found. Worried gripped them, but the darkness of the forest made it too dangerous to search. They spent the night with heavy hearts, praying he was safe. The next day, instead of heading home, they searched the forest for Omenka. For 2 days they searched tirelessly before finally finding him. He apologized for worrying them, explaining why he had stayed behind. Obina, seizing another opportunity to assert control, took it upon himself to divide the treasures. His friends exchanged knowing glances but said nothing as he unfairly took the largest share. But his greed was insatiable. He still wanted Ekene's first find. They finally decided it was time to leave, but as they retraced their steps, something was wrong. No matter how far they walked, the forest's edge never came. Then they saw a small shrine. Instinctively, the men bowed their heads in silent respect. "What are you all doing?" "There are no gods here," Obina scoffed. "Let it be, Obina. You don't have to comment on everything," Ejiofor warned. "I will prove to you this shrine is nothing but a scare tactic," Obina sneered. He walked up to it and laughed like a madman, unzipped his trousers and urinated on it. That night, while they all lay down, Ekene clutched his treasure, a soft smile playing on his lips. He had already decided he would give the bangle to Umma, the love of his life. She had brought light into the once colorless world and wanted nothing more than to marry her. But as sleep claimed him, Obina struck. Sneaking in, he grabbed the treasure and after contemplating where to hide it, he decided to wrap it around his penis, smirking as he fit perfectly. The next morning, Ekene woke up in a panic, frantically searching for his missing treasure. Ekene asked everyone, but they all denied seeing or taking the missing treasure. His eyes locked onto Obina, and Obina stared back at him unfazed. "I want to search everyone's bag," Ekene declared. "We already said we didn't see it. Are you accusing us of stealing?" Ejiofor asked, his voice edged with irritation. "No, but I just want to be sure none of you mistakenly took it," Ekene replied. "Search if it will make you happy," Omenka said, shrugging. Ekene rummaged through their bags, but the treasure was nowhere to be found. His frustration mounted. He was certain he had held it the night before, yet now it had vanished without a trace. The group walked in tense silence for several hours until Omenka's brother suddenly stopped. "I need to poop," he announced. The others nodded, sitting down to wait for him. "I need to go too," Ekene said, standing up. "Same here," Obina added. Ekene returned first. Soon, Obina joined him. But after some time, Omenka's brother did not return. Growing impatient, Ekene decided to go after Omenka's brother. But what he saw left him paralyzed with shock. Omenka's brother lay lifeless on the ground, his body drenched in a pool of his own blood. Ekene screamed, drawing the attention of others. They arrived and immediately froze in horror. Omenka's legs gave way beneath him. As he collapsed onto his brother's corpse, his cries of anguish filled the air. Tears streamed down his face like a waterfall. As he clutched the lifeless body, rocking back and forth, he wailed, cursed, and pounded the ground with his fist. "The spirit of the forest must have killed him," Ejiofor whispered, his voice shaky. "Let's bury him and leave here fast. As you can see, even his bag is missing," he added in a calm but firm tone. Omenka, barely able to nod through his grief, agreed. They dug a shallow grave, placed his brother's body inside, and covered him with earth. Without another word, they turned away, their hearts heavy with sorrow. After walking for hours, they finally found an exit. A wave of relief swept over them as they spotted a bus heading towards their village. They climbed aboard, their faces weary and hollow from the horrors they had endured. The moment they arrived home, people stared at them with suspicion. They had lost weight due to the lack of proper food in the forest. Their faces lean and their eyes sunken. They parted ways with heavy hearts, each man burdened by the weight of what had transpired. Somehow, they felt as though they had done something forbidden, all except one. Days passed and Omenka mourned the loss of his only brother. His family repeatedly asked where he was, but he remained silent. They had not told anyone about their journey, and he could not bear the thought of facing their wrath. Eventually, the family concluded that his brother was dead. Omenka prayed, begging his brother's spirit to find peace and to forgive him for not revealing the truth. A small burial was held in his honor. Meanwhile, the remaining young men decided to move to the city to sell their treasures and build their future. Things appeared to be going well. Ekene married Umma, the love of his life, and they moved to the city. Ejiofor became widely known for his miraculous herbal remedies after discovering a rare mushroom that could cure all diseases in the forest. He cultivated it, and to his surprise it thrived, making him a fortune on top of his share of the treasure. Each man flourished in his own way, all except Obina. The bangle he had wrapped around his penis the night he stole Ekene's treasure refused to come off. He tried everything, oil, soap, even medical ointment, but nothing worked. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself, staring at his swollen, discolored manhood. His once proud organ now resembled an overstuffed sausage, constricted tightly by the cursed bangle. Every passing day, the pain intensified. And to make matters worse, he began seeing Omenka's dead brother everywhere he went. At night, he couldn't sleep. He had once boasted about beautiful women he could court with his newfound wealth, but now he could barely function, let alone entertain the thought of intimacy. The pain was relentless. His manhood was stiff, throbbing and pulsing with unbearable ache. Desperate, he went to the hospital. The moment the doctor saw what he was describing, she gasped in horror. His flesh was rotten. The area was thick with pus, the stench unbearable. "What did you do to get it this way?" she asked, recalling slightly. Obina looked at her with wild, desperate eyes. "Just get it out of me," he shouted. Typical Obina. She sighed, shaking her head. "This area is very delicate. Any procedure we perform could be extremely dangerous. Are you sure you want to proceed?" "Yes, remove it for me," he screamed. An emergency surgery was scheduled, but something was off. The bangle seemed to have a will of its own. It gripped unyieldingly, as though an unseen force refused to let it go. However, it had cut into his flesh, leaving a permanent ring around the area. She could only hope it would heal in time. Obina returned home, hoping for relief, but days later, the swelling worsened. Panic, he ran to the village priest and confessed everything. The old man listened, his face devoid of sympathy. "You have desecrated the sacred abode of the gods," the priest declared, "and now you are suffering the consequences." Obina's mind reeled as he remembered the shrine, the one he had urinated on. "Please help me. I was blinded by greed. I was wrong." The priest shook his head. "I warned you all. Do not be greedy. You had enough, yet you killed your friend and stole his treasure. Now you will suffer immensely." Obina sobbed as he left the shrine, drowning in regret. That night, the pain became unbearable. When he woke the next morning, an unspeakable horror awaited him. His penis lay beside him on the bed, cut off from his body. A brutal scream erupted from his throat, shaking the entire house. In a panic, he called his friends, begging them to come over. The moment they entered, a putrid stench filled their nose. The smell of rotten flesh clung to the air like death itself. Their eyes widened in horror when they saw him. He wept as he confessed everything. The theft, the curse, the suffering that had tormented him ever since. A sudden punch landed on his face. "You killed my brother, you greedy fool," Omenka roared. "I pray you die a horrible death," he spat the words with venom before storming out in rage. Ejiofor shook his head in disbelief. "Obina, this is too much. You had so much, but it was never enough." Ekene sighed and pulled out his phone. "Let me call a pastor," he muttered. A pastor soon arrived and prayed for Obina, promising to check on him the next day. But the next day never came for him. When they returned, they found Obina's lifeless body sprawled on the bed, his face frozen in agony. They took his corpse back to the village, and when the people saw the state of his body, they gasped in shock. "Where is his manhood?" someone whispered. When they heard the full story, they were disgusted. "He does not deserve a burial," an elder spat. Without hesitation, they took his body to the outskirts of the forest and tossed it into the wilderness. The vultures would take care of the rest. The forbidden treasure had been claimed, and the forest had taken its prize. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share. See you in our next one. Bye!